we good to go? Okay, welcome to WeRide's morning e-bike tour. We're starting here a little bit different today in Seoul. We're starting with Insadong, which is where we are now, like the Beverly Hills of South Korea. And we're going to be heading into the old city through Buamdong, which is the film location of Parasite. We'll be checking out some of the sights and sounds of the old city, such as the historic Bukchong Hanok village. We'll be heading down to Cheonggyecheon River, and then we'll be coming back up Inwang Mountain to see the city wall. Actually, you can see the city wall on the mountain behind us over there. That's Bugak Mountain. We'll be going to visit that, and yeah, enjoy the ride. It's a beautiful, cool day, morning in Korea. It's about 21 degrees centigrade. I'm joined today by my partner Kevin and our awesome cameraman Taeyong. So without further ado, let's get going. So it's Friday the 3rd of September today. The time is 7 a.m. So we're expecting a little bit of traffic going into the city. Commuters going into work, I'm sure, will be starting around about now. Let's see what we find. See a temple up on the hill there. I'm riding a Route e-bike called the GRU Route T3, and it's an awesome bike. So these guys ahead, these are not the police. These guys are taxi drivers that have taken on the responsibility of directing morning traffic. 안녕하세요. 뭐라고요?
이게 다 나와.
네, 인력거도 있고 이게 전기 자전거입니다.
전기차에?
네, 전기. 배터리 여기 안에 있어서 숨겨 있어요.
아,
네. 괜찮죠?
그럼 발로 안 줘도 나간다 이거죠?
네, 세팅하면 이 버튼 누르고 그냥 앞으로 가요. 저렇게. 근데 제가 조금 패들링 하고 싶어서 그냥 패들링 하다가 자동으로 조금 도와주는 게 더 내 스타일이에요.
얼마나 가요 가격이 이게?
이게 한 뭐 200? 150, 200 사이? 네. 네, 싸지 않아요. 근데 살만해요. So these guys, as I said, that's not the police. These guys are taxi drivers, have taken on the responsibility of controlling the morning traffic, helping us through. Local heroes. All right, looks like we're almost ready to go. That's a wonderful. 수고했습니다. The wonderful thing about riding in Seoul is, or anywhere really, is that you get to meet people, get to see people. I'd never stop and have a chat with that gentleman if I was in a car. Is this still Hongjaecheon here?
Yeah, this is Hongdaecheon. We call Hongdaecheon.
Right.
Actually, the official name coming from after the Hongin-jimun. This is right across the street. Here's the little gate.
Right, right.
It's not the main gate. It's like a supporting gate. Hongin-jimun. It started the name.
So what we can't, maybe you can't make it out, but just down off to my right is a stream called Hongjae Stream, and just over there's Hongin-jimun, which is the gate, a gate through the secondary city wall. That gives the name to that stream. If I was to follow that stream all the way down, it would take me to the Han River. It's a great ride, and it takes me past famous neighborhoods like Mangwon and Hongdae, or very nearby, those university areas. And of course the very famous World Cup Stadium. We'll have to go for a ride down Hongjae River one day. So we actually have a bike tour down there. So yeah, I'll have to come up, join me for a ride for that later on. But for now, we're heading up this hill, and we're going to a neighborhood called Buamdong, which is famous for many reasons. It's a place where there's a small gate in the city wall. It's also a film location for a number of dramas and the movie Parasite. You might have heard of Parasite. But if you haven't, I'll let you know a little bit more about it when we get there. Okay guys, let's pause here for just one moment. Here we are in Buamdong, which is a beautiful neighborhood. It's very interesting geographically. It's very quiet and kind of a little bit out of the way, so it's used a lot for as a film location. As you can see, we're here nestled in the mountains. Off to the rear is where we came from, down in Pyeongchangdong, which is a beautiful, this is a great view, isn't it? And you can see the Bukhan mountain range in the background. Seoul extends around this mountain, but if you continue in that direction, you'd end up in North Korea. That's north. It's closer than you think. And the reason I've stopped here is because this is one of the most famous. This is one of the spots that was used to film a very, very famous scene in the movie Parasite in 2019, directed by Bong Joon-ho. Thank you, Kevin. So let's cross over. Still trying to catch my breath from the hill. So if you're not familiar with Parasite, it's the only Korean movie to win an Academy Award. Not just one, but many. And it was very well received internationally. It dealt with, I guess, capitalism and social hierarchy, disparities between class and wealth. And let's cross over. And I think that's something that everyone around the world could relate to, or most places in the world. And what happened in the movie is a lot of the symbolism of hierarchy was depicted through actual geographical height. So these steps here, as it says on the sign there, are used to depict a low point in the movie. Do you remember the part where they just escaped from the house? They weren't supposed to be in the rich character's house. They just escaped, and it was raining, and they were arguing and fighting, and they were running down these steps into that tunnel at the bottom there. The water was flowing down the stairs. It was symbolic of the low point for these characters in the movie. And they got back to their home and it was all flooded because they live in the basement. Okay. So actually, in order to film these steps, the building across the way there, the rooftop, that's where the camera was, and it was shooting across this road to where we're standing right now. Additional to the filming of Parasite, which was done partly in this neighborhood, other famous dramas, maybe the most famous is The Coffee Prince. What year was Coffee Prince? Like 2004년? 2003, 2004? Yeah, in 2003, 2004, The Coffee Prince was Korea's hit drama, and that was also filmed around Buamdong as well. Okay, well, without further ado, we'll go and visit the city wall. Today we won't actually be able to go up there, and then we'll head over to past the president's house to Bukchon Hanok village. Okay. Sure. Okay, welcome. Follow me. This is Changyi-moon. Changyi-moon is one of the smaller gates in the city wall. You can see the city wall here to my left and right. It goes over the mountains. And this is kind of between, this point is between Bugak Mountain and Inwang Mountain, which we'll be riding later. There's kind of a little dip between the two, which allows a way through. It's still a bit of a climb as you experience, but it's easier than going over the mountain there. If you look up, you can see the city wall going over Inwang Mountain. Can you see it just in the distance past the church? Yeah, yes. That's right. Okay, well, come on in. Welcome to my house. This is the main door. So Changyi-moon, and the city wall was built over a long period towards the beginning of the Joseon dynasty in 1393. It was destroyed in Japanese invasion, not all of it, but certainly the wooden pavilion at the top in 1592, and then rebuilt in 1741, and then hasn't really changed much since then. So it's one of the it's the gates that has the oldest structure, original structure in the city. All the other gates have been destroyed multiple times since 1792, but this one, 1741. But this gate has survived, and it's beautiful. But let's have a quick look up at the city wall. Actually, I'm not sure if we can film up there. Can we film up there? Yeah? Okay, come on up. So the reason that filming may not be allowed is because we're very close to the presidential Blue House. And I know there are signs saying, see this, no drones, and certain directions you're not allowed to take pictures. But there's a guard up here, and I'm sure if we're not doing what we're supposed to, they'll let us know. So this is a riding tour, so I don't want to take you away for too long, but it is kind of cool to see the city wall since we're here. So we'll just nip in. 안녕하세요. 아, 네. 전화기 안 가지고 왔어요.
전화기 가져오셨을게요. 전화 통화해주세요.
우리 같이.
따로따로 오십니다.
So usually we have to call this number to let them know for corona reasons where we've been. They can track our movements. Okay. 지금 몇 시예요?
지금 15분, 17분.
17분.
What is this?
This is, I'm trying to cover all the personal info here.
Okay, sorry.
This is a sheet that you sign when you enter a building or an establishment to let them know where you live and your contact information. And that way, if somebody who's entered the same facility was to have found to have corona, then COVID-19, then they could contact you and ask you to get checked out as well. So it's for everyone's safety to prevent the spread of corona. Normally, if I had my phone with me, I'd just call this number over here, and that would do the trick. But thank you very much. 감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다. Yeah, right? Totally worth it. And look, that's where we're heading into the city over there. Can you see? Come over this way. You can see the palace.
Palace?
Yeah, Gyeongbokgung Palace in the foreground.
I see.
Right? And then after the palace, there's the metropolis, that is Jongro-gu. and Myeongdong is in that direction too. And then on the mountain over, oh, that's my big hand, over there, that's Namsan Tower. That represents the southern extent of the city. So if we were to follow the city wall, it would take us there. And ultimately, come on over. And this is Seoul City Wall. Look how old it is. It's the defensive structure to the city, maintained over hundreds of years. You can see the Lotte World Tower in the distance there.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fifth tallest building in the world. How tall is it? 555 meters, I think. Tall, with 123 floors. And that's all the way south of the river, Han River. What we can't see so well right now is in this direction. You can just 안녕하세요. 감사합니다. 어디서 하나 봬요?
감사합니다.
좋은 하루 되세요.
네, 좋은 하루 되세요. 감사합니다.
So the city wall goes 18.5, I think, or thereabouts kilometers around the old city of Hanyang. The original city name was Hanyang. And if you go through that gate, and with the security that we experience because of its proximity to the Blue House, we're allowed to hike all the way along the wall. We can do the whole 18 kilometers. Now, some parts of the wall don't exist anymore. They've been destroyed for things like the road, or actually at one part of the wall in Dongdaemun, which is in our evening e-bike tour that you can join us on. Part of the wall was destroyed to build a stadium, which has now become the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, designed by architect Zaha Hadid in 2014. So, parts of the wall have been incorporated in that example into modern structures, and other parts of the wall have just been simply destroyed, but most of it does remain, and you can hike it from here or other access points, which is kind of cool. I've got to admit, I've never done it. Have you done it? 한 바퀴 해봤어요? 아니요. 힘들겠네. It must be tiring. Okay. So leaving here, you'll notice this building on the left-hand side, excuse me. That's a coffee shop that used to Club Espresso. It used to be frequented by our president Moon Jae-in, President Moon, and they have a coffee there called the Moon Blend. And then on this side, we have the pictures of the wall dating back to the year 1900, and you can see that this road, this additional tunnel, is not here. The gate is unobstructed from the rest of Guangdong, and this building is still here today, but majority of the buildings around have thatched roofs, which is not so common anymore here in Korea. Normally when people think of a traditional building, they think of something like this, which is got tiled roof and a wooden structure, but in the past thatched roofing was much more common. This is a hanok house, and we'll be visiting a neighborhood that's very famous for hanoks later on in the tour. So I mentioned President Moon. He's coming to the end of his term as president, and there'll be another presidential election next year, 2022. Is it in April, the presidential
May or April.
May or April, something like that. Okay, guys, you ready to go? Oh, we're going up. Aha. I'm lost. Okay, well, here we go, up into... If I was to make a left here, I would head up Bugak Mountain. The gate, Changi Moon, that we were at earlier. Because I made a right, we're going to find ourselves going up Inwang Mountain. Which will drop us down into the south village, sorry, the west village, Sochon. Which is west of the old city and west of the royal palace, Gyeongbokgung. So that's where it gets its west village name. We'll be visiting that after this beautiful ride, mountain route along the city wall here. You can't see it, but it's off to my right, and it runs along the crest of the mountain here. So you might have guessed, but this isn't really a popular thoroughfare for motorists, which is fantastic for hikers and walkers. You can see people out here walking along this cool leafy street, and myself riding along here. Like it just wouldn't be as pleasant with all the traffic that we'd encounter going through the city. So this is somewhat a bypass, slightly longer route, slightly hillier route. The cars like to go on, but it's perfect for us. There's a lot of people out this morning. Everyone's wearing a mask, even though majority of these people will be vaccinated. Everyone still wears a mask indoors and outdoors. Currently, with a recent spike in infections, I mean, nowhere near as bad as where I'm from, England, but still a slight spike in infections in the city. The establishments like restaurants and bars have to close at 9 o'clock instead of 10, and you're not allowed to dine or be in a restaurant or bar in a group larger than 2 persons at a time. So this is another little spot that we've discovered on our travels along this road, and I'm sure you'll agree it's worth the stop by. took a little bit of time actually. You know, the number of times I'd ridden and rode and walked past here and just gone straight along the path. But if you take this slight detour, there's a spot called Mumude. Mumude means, I guess, a place with nothing. And that's where we're going, to Mumude. And sure, it might be argued that there's not really much here in this particular location, but look at that view. That's perfect, isn't it? You can see the whole of the old city, Hanyang. You can see the city wall curling behind us, which goes over Nam Mountain in the distance with the Seoul Tower on top. It curls around the city center, I guess, Jongro. Goes to Dongdaemun, which is, you can just make out the tall square building in the foreground. That's Dongdaemun Market, where K-pop gets dressed. It then curls to the smaller mountain here. City wall then curls around to the smaller mountain here in the mid-foreground, where that's Naksan. And it's a steeper climb than you think. It's deceivingly difficult to get up there, certainly by bike. And then to Bugak Mountain here, which is the northern extent of the city wall. At the base of Bugak Mountain is the Blue House, where the president lives. And in front of the Blue House is the palace, the Royal Palace Gyeongbokgung, which is a huge area leading to Gwanghwamun Gate. That glassy building over there is the Microsoft building that's right in front of Gwanghwamun Gate. And then in front of Gwanghwamun Gate is Gwanghwamun Square, Gwanghwamun Plaza, I should say, which is where the Candlelight Revolution was held in, I think, 2018, when the previous president, Park Geun-hye, was impeached. So I think early 2018, there was this movement that demanded the president be impeached, and eventually she was. So what a beautiful sight. You can see the Lotte World Tower in the distance there. Tallest tower in Korea, tallest building in Korea for sure. Fifth tallest in the world. And at 555 meters, when you get up there, you can feel it. Oh, great view. The Lotte World Tower is in a neighborhood called Jamsil, which is very close to where the 1988 Olympics was held. Also, near the location of the capital of the Baekje dynasty. Baekje era was, we're talking, I believe, like 2,000 plus years ago, and you'll have to fact check that. The Baekje dynasty is way back, long before the Joseon dynasty, which is the most recent dynasty. And the capital was over there, near the Lotte World Tower. And there's still remains from that period that you can see today. It's quite amazing. Beautiful. Okay, let's get back to our bikes before I get too comfortable here. What we see in the foreground from Mumude is the west village, Sochon, and we're going to be going down into Sochon in just a moment. It's a quiet neighborhood that's been fairly undeveloped due to its proximity to the presidential palace. It has building restrictions. It even had movement restrictions in the past when security was higher. So it's all of these, I don't know, all the security, I guess, has kept the neighborhood nice and quiet, undeveloped, and a really unique space where galleries have popped up and little coffee shops. It's quite, I'm quite looking forward to going down there. Okay, here we go. Woohoo! Gotta love the e-bike. Oh, there are records in Joseon texts of tigers. Tigers being spotted and hunted, chased in these mountains. I don't know when the last tiger was seen here, but I did see a recent picture. Recently I saw a picture of this mountain just after the Korean War, and it was completely bare, not a tree in sight, just scarred from war. So most of this foliage that you're seeing on this particular mountain has been encouraged or planted, or it certainly came about after the Korean War. I don't think a tiger or any kind of life would have survived that picture that I saw.
I see your logo.
I see. That's turning into a really nice day, isn't it?
What's the best course? Should we just go? Should we continue to go down all the way?
I'm thinking maybe we should cut across to Bukchon now, don't you? Yeah.
I mean,
So we'll just skirt the edge of the West Village and past the Presidential Palace to Bukchon. See the Hanok village. So the city walls are open now. It was closed for a long time.
really,
Yeah, I guess for COVID reasons, or not entirely sure. But it's been open for a couple of weeks now. Have you ever tried chicken in this neighborhood? Yeah. Buamdong is also famous for chicken, fried chicken. And if you haven't tried Korean fried chicken, oh, you're missing out. There we go. We've just hit the speed limit, 40 kilometers an hour. We're whizzing back down to the city. We're going to be passing the presidential blue house shortly. And then we'll be heading over to the east side of the place called Sochon. So, to my right is the Royal Palace, Gyeongbokgung, and the North Gate. And to my left, we're just passing the Blue House where the president lives, President Moon, and the president's offices. There's a lot of security around. There's a few big guns. But the thing that I noticed the most that I think is really cool is that we're on a bicycle lane. There's a bike lane going right past the seat of power here in Korea. And I'm not sure if President Moon uses this bike lane often, but I think it's a great symbol, a very progressive gesture here in Korea to put a bicycle lane right in front of the president's house. There are so many great bike lanes in Korea and in the city, in Seoul, and they extend across the country. There are bicycle share programs. The one in Seoul is called Daringi, and very easy to use if you can speak Korean. If you can't speak Korean, it's a little tricky. I think it's a wonderful place to ride, and these bicycle lanes are used. There's this debate around the world, you know, what comes first, cyclists or the bike lanes? You know, there aren't enough cyclists, so why to justify bike lanes? Well, if you take Seoul as a case study, take Korea as a case study, the bicycle lanes came first, cyclists came after. Let's cut through. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You created speed racer.
No, we're gonna cut through Samcheondong and take the shortcut. So is that the Brazilian embassy there? I'm always wondering, what is Brazil House? It says, yeah, it's the Embassy of Brazil in Seoul. There it is. When we get to Bukchon, you might be able to see the Brazilian flag that's flying on the rooftop there. So now we're entering Samcheondong. Samcheong meaning the three blues. You might be wondering, what are the three blues in this neighborhood? Well, one is the water. This road ahead of us used to be a river. In fact, it still is a river flowing underneath the ground here. And the water that flows underneath this road will connect to the river that we'll be visiting later on in the tour, Cheonggyecheon, which also itself was beneath the road for some of its life and now has been uncovered. Yeah. The second blue is, wait for it, the mountains. Yep. Don't ask me why, but the mountains are the second blue. It's not the sky, it's the mountains. And the third blue is the people. The people of this neighborhood, Bukchon-dong, this side of the palace, Samcheondong and Bukchon. These were ruling class, the wealthy people who were right next to the palace, the seat of power, or the Blue House. And they ruled the country. So you would hope that the royalty and the ruling class that lived in this neighborhood would have a nice, pure mind and good intentions. And that is what blue represents: purity of mind and spirit, purity of mind and good intentions. So the people here represent the third blue of Samcheondong. Okay, just up this. I don't know if we can you get up here, Kev? Okay, Kev's gonna go around. We're gonna take the shortcut up this alley. As you can see, you'll see a number of reasons why this neighborhood is, although being right in the center of the city, is not really ideal or preferred housing for young Koreans these days. And one of them is parking. The other is the Hanok house, which we're going to be seeing shortly, which, although very, very beautiful, and I would love to live in one, most Koreans don't want to because they're considered to be, well, a little uncomfortable in terms of modern facility. What we see ahead of us isn't a museum. This is someone's home. And the neighborhood is full of houses like this. This kind of architecture is known as Hanok. It's a Korean traditional architecture. And in this neighborhood, these kind of houses would have been here from the foundation of the city, more or less. But they would have been much larger and much more grand originally. After Japanese occupation, in order to prevent this neighborhood and these grand houses from being overrun by the wealthier Japanese ruling class, the neighborhood was divided up into smaller properties, which is what we see today in around about the 1930s. So this is affordable housing, shall we say, 1930s affordable Korean housing that was built for Korean people to keep this neighborhood, this traditionally Korean neighborhood, Korean. Unlike the West Village, which we skirted by just before the Blue House, which did get overrun by Japanese and Japanese colonial settlers, shall we say? And when you visit the west side of the palace, has a lot more of a Japanese feel, as this is definitely Korean through and through. What a view. And looking down back, well, you'll see from the top, but we're right at the edge of northern extent of Jongno, and that's downtown financial district down there. We'll be heading into there later on, and that's where we'll find the Cheonghaechun River running through the middle of those buildings. This chimney stack here is a very important part of the Korean hanok house. It's the heating system, so the fire wouldn't be beneath the chimney as you'd expect. It's all the way at the other side of the house, and the smoke and heat from the fire is drawn underneath the floor to this chimney, and as it moves under the cavity beneath the floor, it warms the property in the winter. And that cavity in the summer, of course, the fire wouldn't be lit in the summer, but the air would still flow beneath the floor, keeping the house cool. Although these days, as you can see, that's a gas outlet, a gas exhaust outlet. So these days, these properties have been updated, and they still have underfloor heating, but it's hot water running through pipes under the floor. So. Now, if we were here on a regular year, the street would be full of tourists all taking pictures and wearing the traditional Korean traditional clothing called the hanbok, which you could rent for a few hours. And if you rent the hanbok, you can get into the palace for free. It's a lot of fun to dress up and get these pictures. But as you can see today, we're the only ones here, apart from the people who live here, of course. And of course, you guys are here too, so we're lucky to have the place to ourselves. This is a city share scooter, electric scooter. Okay, I'll follow you down, Kev. Now I'm stuck. There we go. That little nook that we were in there with all the hammocks is it's a really beautiful, one of my favorite streets that exhibit the hanok housing style. However, this neighborhood is full, as you can see right now, full of streets, full of hanoks, and it extends all the way across to the other side of the neighborhood as well. I believe this is the South African embassy. Hooray! This building that we see on the right-hand side here is a dentist.
Too much dopamine.
Time for the kids to go to school. This is the neighborhood. I believe this is the neighborhood where a very famous Korean pop group went to school. Did Dongbang Shingi go to the school in this neighborhood? No? Who went to school in this neighborhood? 되게 유명한 가수 이 동네에서 학교 다녔다고 들었어.
There's so many famous actors.
Is that? I might be making that up. That street that we were just on, it's called Yumboson-gil. Yumboson it's named after the president, an ex-president called Yumboson. He was the second president here in Korea, just before the dictator. Yep.
The one that's next to the dressing room.
Uh-huh.
She said it's morning. Weather is good.
Ah, good morning.
Saddle?
Yeah, that's great. We have a viewer enjoying the weather with us. That's fantastic. Welcome to Seoul.
How is the weather? It's cool.
Right now, it's perfect. Actually, it's not hot. Like I'm kind of overdressed, to be honest. I don't need to be wearing this much, but I'm not hot at the same time.
We had a chance during the war. Plan some foreign exchange students, typically who come from South Asia or Taiwan or even European, to just join the morning bike tour, and then just having some conversation and broadcasted at YouTube. There might be people who enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Communicate only one single language right now is English, so it'll be a little bit expanded. By the way,
Yeah, let's mix it up. We'll make it a Korean English plus tour. Be good to have a lot of different perspectives.
so where are we heading now?
Well, we're going to cross over the street here and down this road, which is called Insadong, and it's traditionally a market that's become famous for antiques and old furniture, and it's also a tourist destination. Like, this would be full of tourists on an ordinary non-corona morning. These days it's very quiet. We can just whiz through. But you can buy souvenirs and old paintings. You can rent a hanbok, and there's plenty of K-pop related stores along the street as well. We're just going to pass through briefly. We're going to make a right turn here so that I can take you to the temple. We'll pass through the temple, Jorge Temple, and we'll then head on to the Sochon River. Now, the Sochon River, I've mentioned a few times on the tour. But what I didn't mention is that it's the reason why the city, one of the reasons why the city was founded in this spot. It was the main water thoroughfare, the main waterway of the ancient city of Hanyang. So ahead of us is Jorge Temple, Jorge-sa, and it's arguably one of the most important temples in Korea because it is the main head temple of the Jorge order of Buddhism here in Korea, which is the most popular order. It's kind of tucked away almost from the road, from the city, but when you get in there, we'll see it opens up to this beautiful space. Sorry, Taeyong. A terrible subject to film. We're all over the place. So, this is not a museum. This is a working temple. This is a place of worship, and people come here to make their prayers, show their respects. It's a very, I always feel very privileged to be welcomed here. I mean, that I don't mean that to sound like everyone's not welcomed here. This is a very open and welcoming space, but I feel very privileged to be able to be here, enjoy the atmosphere. You can just see there are a few lilies. There's one there. It's just coming to the end. And these flowers are wilting and going away. This plaza in front of the main temple here will change in theme according to the current festival. That tree that we see there in front of the temple is a really beautiful organism. It's a lacebark pine, and it's I believe it's over 500 years old. Really beautiful creature. What have we got here?
What is this machine?
Is this for donating money?
Yes.
Oh wow, this is...
Dad received by credit card. I hope they get a Bitcoin. Starting from $500 to $10. Total
Wow.
$860.
$860. Where's the business card? So as you can see, there's the traditional, I don't know if you can read the writing here, but this is a donation box. And this is the high-tech version of the traditional version, which is over here in front of this happy fellow, just beneath. You can just make out, that's it, the box there. Inside this stone box, you could put in some money to donate to the temple. And now you can put in your credit card. That's awesome. Yeah, high-tech Korea. I mean, this is a prime example of the old and the new, the contemporary and the traditional side by side. When you just look around you, you're surrounded by these awesome modern buildings, and then there's this fantastic traditional, and it just works. It's just naturally works. That's my GoPro beeping at me. So as we walk past the main body of the temple, you should be able to see inside 3 large effigies, 3 large statues of Buddha. And I don't know if you can make out, but behind those statues of Buddha are all is a painting with hundreds of mini Buddhas painted in the background, and they're all mimicking what the large statue is doing. And the large statues represent, one of them represents health, the other one forgiveness, and the other one benevolence. And those small Buddhas painted in the background represent all the possibilities of those 3 virtues. Walking around this way, there's the pagoda, feature of all Buddhist temples, and then of course to my right over here, you can see the bell and the drum, the temple bell and temple drum. And around the back of the pagoda is a place where people can offer their prayers and light incense. If you were here, you'd smell the wonderful aroma of incense. It really does add to the atmosphere. definitely feels like I'm in a very special place. This tree was a gift to the temple from a Chinese scholar 300 years ago, so it's over 300 years old. I believe it's a Sephora, and you can go to the office just to the side here and buy a little ticket with your name on it or your prayers on it, and have it put on a lantern in this tree. Around the side of the temple, on the panels around the side, is a story of Buddha's journey. And here is something I see in many temples. I'm not an expert in Buddhism, but it seems to be a feature of all temples. Have this stone block with the scriptures written on it, and on the back of a turtle. This is a particularly awesome one. Okay, guys, let's make a move and visit the Changchun River. Look, the contrast between new, traditional, and new. To me, that's just that just says Seoul to me. There's so many examples of this harmony between the traditional, the old, and the new, and contemporary. Side by side. Okay. I don't know if you noticed, but we passed 4 coffee shops already in that short section, just in that junction there. There's another one, 5. There's a Starbucks, 6. There's another one over there, 7. It just less than a block. There are so many coffee shops in Korea, in Seoul. And they're all doing great business. I know Taeyong, the camera might seem a little bit shaky right now because Taeyong hasn't had his morning coffee. Yeah, Korea loves coffee. So we're riding down this short section is a street called Bell Street, Jongno. And we're taking the corner. Bell Street gets its name from the building just across the way, which has a bell in it. It represents the center of the old city. Bell was rung to communicate with the citizens. Curfew, when the gates were opened, it was rung on the hour. And now it's rung to welcome in the new year. It's kind of like the Times Square location here in Korea for New Year's Day. So that street that we were on earlier would be shut down on New Year and full of people. However, last year, well, this year I should say, this New Year it wasn't. Everyone was discouraged from going for obvious reasons due to Corona. This bike lane that I'm on, the only bike lane that's on the left-hand side of the road in the country that I know of, runs alongside the Sochon River, which is to my left here. And in just one moment, we'll go down and check it out because it's pretty cool. We'll just park on this bridge over here called Gwangtonggyo. Gwangtonggyo is a really old bridge dating back to the beginning of the Joseon dynasty. It was rebuilt in stone in the year 1400 with the third king of Korea of the Joseon dynasty rebuilt this bridge in stone after it got washed away. And follow me. And this was the main bridge, the main crossing across the main river in Hanyang, city of Hanyang. But the cool thing that many people don't know about that bridge is where the third king got the stones from. The stones that he got from that bridge were from his stepmother's tomb, which is quite sinister. She and him didn't get along very well, needless to say. So coming down here, when you come down to the Sochon River and go underneath this bridge, you can see engravings on the foundations of the bridge that really don't belong here. They belong on a royal tomb, the tomb of Queen Shindok, his stepmother. So all of this was underneath the road. This during a period of rapid development in the, I want to say 50s, 60s. The country Korea was developing, and this whole river was covered up to make a road. Then in the previous mayor of Seoul, Lee Myung-pak, was responsible for digging this up and restoring it to what we see today. So the water that still runs beneath the road in Samcheongdong, the neighborhood we were in earlier, comes out of the ground here and becomes the Cheonggyecheon River. If we were to follow this down, it would take us all the way to past Dongdaemun, out past the East Gate, Dongdaemun shopping area, and we'd end up eventually joining the Han River. You can walk the whole way or ride on a bike lane. And as you go, you'll see plenty of wildlife in the water and around the water, water birds and fish. And you'll also see loads of people enjoying the space. So if you were to come here on an evening, the streets would be completely empty. You know, after working hours, everyone's either gone home or they've come here to hang out by the river. So these steps would be lined with people on a date or friends, just hanging out, having a beer or having a snack by the Cheonggyecheon River. It's a really wonderful space. If you look in the water here, you can see the fish. Can you see the fish? 물고기. So that's a brief introduction to the Cheonggyecheon River and Gwangcheonggyo Bridge. And now we've crossed over the river. We're no longer in Jongno district, which is that side. We're in Junggu district, which is on this side. And Junggu is where the famous Myeongdong is located. Myeongdong's in Junggu, right? Yeah. So if we were to walk further down this way and off to the right a little, we'd enter Myeongdong, which is famous for cosmetics, and I think there's a Chinese school there or embassy or something. There's a lot of Chinese presence in that neighborhood. It's a must-see place for a lot of tourists that come to Korea. And now when you go there, it is empty. The streets are abandoned and the shops are really struggling. So if you come to Korea at present, it's hard to get issued a visa, if at all, and you have to go through 2 weeks of quarantine. So for that reason, I don't think they issue tourist visas anymore at the moment. You have to come for another reason, such as work or study. So really, there really aren't any tourists anymore. Hopefully that will be over soon.
Finish it?
Yeah, I think we've had a good walk around.
All right. Thank you for watching our live stream video. We're gonna be do exactly same time next week, Friday, 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. or 7 a.m. Today night we're gonna do evening e-bike tour, starting from Cheonggye Stream at 6:30 p.m. So if you guys are interested, just keep follow us and subscribe and do some alarm. It's actually very good to ride. Hope you guys are here, but even if we are not in the same place, keep in touch. See you around.
Yeah, so join us again, as Kev said, for our evening edition. Hope to see you then. If not, we'll see you at the next edition, and I hope that you'll be able to come to Korea and ride with us soon. So have a great day. See you later.